The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook by using promo code RTRS, and brought to you by Briggs Auction, the official auction of the process at briggsauction.com. MortgageCS, become a MortgageCS Ricky VIP at mortgagecs.com/Ricky. And Stateside Urban Craft Vodka, the official sponsor of the Corner 3 newsletter with Zoe, statesidevodka.com. On the show today, Daryl Morey joins us for his now annual post-trade deadline podcast to atone for all of his sins in one place, right here on the pod. And we talk about Live Ricky 5 Victory Tour. Pre-sale is today, Wednesday. Regular on sale is Friday at 10 a.m. Pre-sale is today, Wednesday. We have received a couple of recent messages from Ricky VIPs that we will play for you. If you are listening to this now, it's before 10 a.m. and you want the pre-sale password, subscribe to the newsletter, rightstrickysanchez.com/newsletter. I did mention Stateside Vodka. Mike, I have an announcement about Stateside Vodka.
What do we got?
This is my last drink until Live Ricky 5.
Okay,
Yes.
Imagining how quickly buzzed you're going to get on stage.
Yep. I decided, even though I'm a Jew, I'm giving up alcohol for Lent. And then the night of Live Ricky 5, it will be my first drink. I will have a Surfside in front of everyone. Everyone will go fucking nuts. Then I'll pass out almost
I brought some Surfsides over for our friend Taylor's birthday the other day.
Oh.
It's a big hit.
Yes, sir. They like the Surfsides?
Oh, yeah. People love it. Cool can.
Fucking great can. Surfside iced tea and vodka now comes in peach tea and vodka. It comes in lemonade iced tea and vodka, and straight up Surfside lemonade and vodka. Go to statesidevodka.com. Enjoy it. Again, this is the last one. I'm drinking with Daryl for the last time until Live Ricky 5, a.k.a. Easter. By the way, you got to be 21 to drink it. Without any further ado, Amos and the chef.
We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We was right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We were right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. Say the name.
Welcome to the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. I'm Spike Eskin, along with a guy wondering why Daryl Morey is doing this to himself again. That is one Mike Levin.
I'm excited to talk to Daryl. I like talking to Daryl.
Yeah. I was thinking the other day about the first time he was on, and it is still wild to me that he came on our podcast as president of the Houston Rockets.
Yeah. Yeah. We've asked him, like, did you have any indication that you were going to take this job? And I think he said no. And I have to think he was lying. I have to think it. That's impossible.
Yeah, we don't have any information that he was, but it is just so weird for him to pop on from Disney World on our podcast for a full hour. Now I guess
he was pretty bored. He had to be pretty bored over there.
Well, remember, we got Embiid at the same time. You know, who was also, I'm sure, very bored. You know, it is funny. There were rumors. You remember, like the year before, there were rumors about Daryl. The year before they actually hired him.
Yeah, it was right after the Colangelo thing. Yeah.
Yes.
They took a shot.
So speaking of the Colangelo thing, so Live Ricky 5 is April 9th at Underground Arts, featuring B-Ball Paul, featuring Eliza Hardy-Jones, who will be performing Imagine the Process, featuring our friend Mutlu, and many other guests to come.
Waiting to connect this to Colangelo.
I'm going to get there.
Okay.
You'll remember this because I was going through old pictures. I was going through pictures of Live Ricky 4, Live Ricky 3, both at Franklin Music Hall. And by the way, the pre-sale is 10 a.m. Wednesday. Regular on sale is 10 a.m. Friday. Go to rightsrickysanchez.com. But It is much smaller here than it is at Franklin Music Hall at Underground Arts, so way fewer tickets. There's the Kornblau VIP ticket, which is $100. You get a picture with B-Ball Paul, you get priority seating, you get 2 drink tickets, you get the commemorative T-shirt, all that. Okay.
And this is the immediately after the last game of the regular season.
Correct. It is on Easter night, 8 p.m., and the regular season game is 1 o'clock, I think, that day in Brooklyn. So you're saying, how do you connect this back to Colangelo?
Always waiting.
So I was going through these old pictures, and I saw the old pictures of when Brett did his surprise appearance. Mm-hmm. But then I went back to Live Ricky 3, which happened, I don't know, a week or two after Elton Brand was named general manager of the Sixers. Mm-hmm. And Elton did his surprise appearance at Live Ricky 3. Mm-hmm. And God bless him for doing it. Took my word that it would be okay. God bless the Sixers for taking our word that we would treat him right. And I think by and large we did. Mm-hmm. But he was the guy that took over for Colangelo. And he sits down, makes a great entrance, sits down on stage. And I forget what the actual verbiage was. But we said something about what he was wearing. And I said to him, "That's a normal collar." And the entire crowd started chanting, "Normal collar, clap, 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 clap." Mm-hmm. And there's a photo of him looking at me, making this cringe ouch face, mm-hmm. which came right before he looked me dead in the eye. And with only his eyes said to me, "I'm going to fucking murder you." I can't believe you put me in this situation, is what I thought when I said.
I mean, he came out looking good. He came out and he was,
I thought so,
well liked on the podcast, and he, because of the Colangelo thing, maybe Elton was the source. Maybe that was it. He came out, all of a sudden went from like 5th in the line of succession to 1st. So I think he had to perform like he was upset to hear normal collar chants at him, but yeah, I mean, it worked out for him.
It did. I was going over, CJ has been the sort of like co-executive producer of Live Ricky 5 so much. And we had a meeting on Monday night. We were going over some stuff.
Have we agreed on CJ's title? I don't know that we're giving him co-executive producer already. Wow.
Of the live pod? I need his help.
Co-exeunless producer. No, it's fine. I just wanted the title of co-executive producer. I think we could have just workshopped it. It's like really vaulting him to the top of the food chain there.
A couple of things we're going to need. Obviously, like we haven't confirmed any of this yet. You always come up with a game for a listener. So we're going to need you to come up with a game to give. I don't know what we're going to give away, but we're going to need some sort of a game. CJ and I were talking about getting one of those things where you can test people's vertical leap. So
Paul twists his ankle.
Yeah.
On stage.
By the way, when Daryl comes on, we have to ask him if he wants to come. Just put him on the spot. I was also thinking it's been years. It's been since Live Ricky 4 since we inducted anyone or anything into the Process Hall of Fame.
Yep. I have a favorite for that.
Yes, I know you do. AU's also got a favorite, so we might have to work through that. So,
AU was wrong. AU's always been wrong about this person, and he's wrong again.
And the final thing, we're working on some celebrity messages to put online, and we did get a couple of them. We got one from our friend Tony to Tony.
Yeah, what's up, you fucking pussies? It's me, Tony, with a message for you for the Ride to Ricky Sanchez dance party. Yo, they're having a victory tour. Get off your fucking ass and buy a ticket. Nick 976 Ricky licks ass. That's me, Tony. Get up and get out. Get your ticket now.
Mike, your thoughts?
Licks ass gets me every time. Licks ass.
Truthfully, I've watched that far too many times. Oh my God, I love
soulful Tony. Musician Amos Lee. Unbelievable.
Well-respected musician.
Imagine if, I'm not saying that Amos is this person, but imagine if like Jason Mraz did that. Like just such a crazy, he's not the same guy, but just like a little like small thing in like the end of their Wikipedias. And also a character that Jason plays is a puppet, a very problematic puppet.
John Mayer appeared on a Minnesota Timberwolves podcast along with his.
That actually does feel like something Mayer would do. I feel like that he would, yeah.
Oh, man. I love the videos. That is something you should watch. And of course, we got this message from B-Ball Paul, who will be our special guest of honor.
Hey, Sixers fans. It's B-Ball Paul here. Super excited to join Spike and the rest of the podcast on April 9th. In the meantime, go check out my hoodies on my Twitter page. Really cool.
Well, we hope to see everyone there. I'm thrilled to once again be doing a live Ricky. Also thrilled to be doing an Underground Arts with our friend Rich, who is a enormous believer in the pod. Rich worked closely with Brian Dilworth, who passed away a few years ago. And Brian was the guy, a good friend who talked us into doing live shows. And Rich worked hand in hand with Brian. So, love Brian and miss Brian. Rich certainly keeping the torch lit for us. So thank you, Rich. So we look forward to seeing everybody there.
Yeah, big time. And our toughest test yet is breaking B-Ball Paul out of his shell, because the most charismatic player on the court, he's, his body is emoting left and right.
Yeah.
And we just got to pull that out of him on stage. And I'm excited to see if we can do it.
I think we can. I think everyone, what is the Mike Tyson quote is like everybody, what is it? Like everybody's brave until they get punched in the mouth.
Yeah. You're going to hit Paul is what you're saying.
Well, no.
I get it. I see the metaphor.
I guess what I'm saying is everybody is, they're quiet people. And then you show up in front of a crowd full of people chanting your name. And all of a sudden we had TJ McConnell with 2 beers in each hand saying, go fuck Cleveland or whatever.
TJ's TJ.
Yeah.
Dario had a little bit more shell to break out of, but
he did.
We'll see. I'm excited for Paul. I'm excited for Paul to experience this.
Well, here we go. It's time for Daryl. We normally record this part after we've talked to Daryl, but we're recording it now before we talk to Daryl. So you've been rough on Daryl, I think, the last several weeks. I think not rough, but fair, but I think critical of Daryl. So I wonder if he has a bone to pick with you, I think is my question.
I would love it.
Yeah.
I would love it if he did.
It's been a little while since Vegas Mike. You ready? Vegas Mike?
Whew. Let's do it. I actually just booked a work trip to Vegas. So I'm locked in.
There you go. Well, here you go, Vegas Mike.
Let's hear it.
Of course, all of these odds coming from our sponsor, DraftKings Sportsbook, our presenting sponsor, DraftKings Sportsbook. Mike, it's been a while since we've talked Sixers championship odds and Joel Embiid MVP odds. What would you guess? Obviously, Nikola Jokic is the favorite at minus 250. What would you guess Embiid's MVP odds are currently?
I'll say plus, so far so good, plus 525.
Close. I'm going to give it to you anyway. Plus 450. And the Celtics are the favorite to win the title at plus 275. Why don't you tell me what the Sixers odds are and who the second favorite is?
Second favorite got to be the Suns.
It is plus 425. And the Sixers
are plus 750.
Plus 1,200 at DraftKings Sportsbook. Wonder what Daryl thinks of that. He's probably listening to this right now. What is better than Vegas Mike and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA? DraftKings, not Vegas Mike. Right now, put $5 on any pregame moneyline bet and get $150 in bonus bets if your team wins, if you use promo code RTRS. Again, that is promo code RTRS, and existing customers take a shot at even bigger payout with DraftKings stepped up same game parlays. Download the app now. And if you're a new customer, use code RTRS. New customers bet $5 on any pregame moneyline bet and get $150 in bonus bets if your team wins. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with code RTRS. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details.
While we wait for him, did you happen to notice Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic playing in the same starting lineup
in the game that you said was fake and didn't matter? I did.
It definitely doesn't matter. But just
another
that didn't matter. Another feather in the cap of just play the 5 best players.
But that's not what happens, as most teams need a center and a point guard and then wings to finish out the rest of their team because
They are listed as front court and back court, though, in the All-Star voting. So there's something I've noticed, something a lot of people tweeted at me. Wanted to bring it up on the pod where the argument was had.
For the audio listeners, Spike and Mike argue about this for too long.
This is rough. Daryl just got here. Let's roll right into that.
I'm a positionless guy, but that's me.
Thanks, Daryl. You're with me.
I like CJ popping up there. Why do you hide?
Yeah, we always like CJ popping up there.
How
Really just breaks it up.
Just for us to get started here, how tall do you think? Just looking at CJ from the chest up, how tall do you think he is?
I think I've met CJ, so it's a little unfair. Yeah, 6'1".
Wow.
Was he 6'1"?
I am shorter than you.
We don't know yet.
That's nice.
Yeah,
I'm
we're
shorter
gonna.
than you, but you're a tall man, Daryl.
Yeah.
My problem is anyone shorter than me, I just put in a bucket shorter, so I don't really judge
That's
past that.
Daryl was nice enough to stop by where everyone was at Fly the Process, where our seats were, and everyone just kept the one thing. First of all, thank you for doing that. Everybody was thankful, but everyone was like, "Man, he's fucking tall."
Yeah, I could sub in and be do a good Della Vadova impression maybe.
Don't set the bar too high now.
Welcome back to the pod.
Thanks.
Daryl.
Yes, thanks for having me.
I think I have to ask at the top. Mike has been critical historically of your handling of the backup center position, and I was wondering if you were worried at all running into the buzzsaw that is Mike Levin right now and has been recently.
Well, we did have a preamble talk, and Mike just said there are no centers. So how can you have an X position issue then?
Definitely didn't say there are no centers, which is interesting. Beating around the question. I will say it. Let's start with that. I was going to start with like a broader question, but let's start right with that.
Let's start with it. Yeah. I think you should bring all the hard questions. I like them. So.
Okay. Sure.
So,
do you have a kink for the buyout market? Is it something that you like to get without having to pay anything for? There's a roster spot, we got it. But that you'd rather get a backup center there than trading anything of, let's say, value for them.
well, I will say the centers were a little bit hard to obtain relative to, look, we're trying to win the championship, both, our odds this year, and I have to keep an eye on the future, and what we give up matters as well. So it's always like judging the upside versus the downside of any move. I'll say we feel comfortable with PJ and Paul Reed and Dedmon as our group. Now, Mike, you may not feel comfortable, so which I can understand. Like, you can always do better, but that's probably the group we're rolling with.
Well, which of them, and it's notable that you named 3, which of them do you want to be the answer?
I think it depends on the team. I know it's going to sound like a cop-out, but it really isn't meant to be. I think part of signing PJ was going to be for the playoffs and for key games, and I think PJ so far in key games shown what he can do still. Paul Reed is playing well and hopefully will continue to play better, not just well. And then Dedmon, I know a lot of people were like scratching their head on that one. He's someone we've liked for quite a while. A lot of our players have played with him in the past. This season, people are pointing to a lot of issues, but he did have a fairly significant plantar fascia issue that is resolved. So look, proof is in the pudding, right? I mean, at the end of the day, we're trying to win the title. So let's see what happens. So
I hesitate to ask this.
Let's say we did, to your point, to the initial question, we did prioritize the Jalen and upgrade there more than the center. I mean, you saw what centers were going for. I can't say the players' names, but some of them were going for like 5 second-round picks.
Yeah.
Who I would say are non-differential to the one that we just picked up.
A lot of times when we have conversations about what you have done or what you haven't done, we end up down this road where we're like, yeah, but he has to worry about this, and then to get rid of this guy, he had to do this, and blah, 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 blah. And obviously every story is a little bit longer and more intricate. And we also don't know what was available, not available, so on and so forth. Do you ever get frustrated when you see reaction to one of your moves or lack of one of your moves that does not give the full context of what you thought about or what went into that?
That's a good question. I guess I was gonna like spin and say don't get frustrated, but I actually do get frustrated. I wish, and one of the reasons why I like coming on your show and talking to some of the good beat writers we have, the local writers who I think do a good job covering the team, is because a lot of the context is missed, and I don't expect our fans, a lot of them are casual, right, to totally get that I don't think it's more complicated than Joel goes out, we suck, fix it. Right. And I don't blame them. Like, if you're a fan of the team, it shouldn't be much more than that. But there is a lot of context. We have been playing well with Joel off for a good margin. We jumped right into it, but we're very excited for this stretch run. It's going to be a very difficult stretch run, but we have the best record in the league since we've had James and Joel back this season. We're top 10 in both offense and defense. We have an inside presence. We have an outside presence. If you look at historically teams that go on to win the title, we look like those teams. Now, we're facing a very tough set of opponents in both Milwaukee and Boston, who I think you have to go in and say, look, those guys deserve to be they're favored over at us. But we don't feel like we're out of range. And I think, if you look across the league, like most people agree with that. It feels like it's us, Milwaukee, Boston in the East, and then Denver, and I'd say Phoenix in the West seem like the two that I would be the most concerned about.
There are, you mentioned 25 games left in the regular season. You do have one of the toughest schedules in the league left. March is especially, like, you're on the road a crazy amount of time in March. What does the team need to do over this final stretch to prove to you, to make you believe that they're a legitimate contender? What do you need to see done?
Yeah, and I think we like this stretch because we're not going to be able to fool ourselves like that we're too good by playing really easy opponents. We have, assuming we stay healthy, knock on wood, we have the rotation available that we're going to have available in the playoffs. So generally teams that go on to win the title are winning about 3 out of 5 against tough opponents. We've been well over that for this year so far, actually winning some games even without full strength. So, but the proof is in the pudding. Like, I do think this last stretch is going to really prepare us for the playoffs and also give us a good sense of how we stack up against these better teams.
What specifically, like, area of the game do you feel like needs to improve and you're looking to see improve over the last few games here?
I think a lot of it was like the Cleveland game. Obviously the first half was one of our best halves of the season. Yep. I would like to see like a consistently, look, we're not going to play that well all the time, but we go on these huge variant swings. And you can point to a lot of things every team deals with, which is just threes go in or they don't, the natural aspects of basketball weather swings, which is when you miss a shot there in transition, they're more likely to score, you're more likely to take it out, you're more likely to be in the half court. So there's natural swings in basketball, but our swings are even larger than most teams, especially most good teams. And I would like to see us play, just consistent, possession by possession, where we're slowly refining what we're doing over time. Whereas right now, I still feel like, we can have big swings, and I'll let you guys have pointed in the past to what those might be, but I don't need to speculate. I just want to see it improve.
Do you ever consider, and I think this is partially hyperbole, but also partially true, that a large part of your legacy as an executive, a large part of James Harden's legacy as a player, and a large part of Embiid's legacy as a player, fairly unfairly, could rest a lot on how the team performs over the next couple of years? Do you think about that? And if you do, what do you think about it?
I mean, I'd add Doc Rivers in there too. Obviously, he's won a title, and the rest of who you listed hasn't. But I know how competitive Doc is, and how much he would like to, put another. I just think if you win 2 with 2 different teams, it's a whole different ball game. I think most of the time, we just think, and I'll even speak for myself, I just think day to day, like what do we need to do now? I do think there are times when you take a look back and say, it probably really came to me. I've had some of the, best coaches of all time, Doc and Rick Adelman and others. And, Rick, I got to know really well. He hadn't won the title, and I know I've talked to him since when he was inducted into the Hall of Fame. And, I think, you definitely think about it when you get to that stage. So, I don't personally think about it a lot, I'd say, but of course it's going to be something that you think about a lot, whatever happens down the road.
You actually mentioned a specific team, but I don't know if you're allowed to mention it. So I'll just talk.
I can mention teams.
Okay.
I just can't say
right.
players. Yeah.
So Phoenix added a really big piece at the trade deadline, a monstrous size piece. You all added a really big piece at the trade deadline last year. Historically, there's not a ton of examples of teams going on to win a championship after making such a significant trade at that time. How possible do you think that is? And, what are the challenges that are there? And then what do you think can be overcome in that short amount of time to overcome those challenges?
Yeah, I saw some data recently that of those late season additions, it was just my former Rockets was the best one, was when they added Clyde Drexler in 95, I believe. It might have been 94. I think it was 95. So that, I think I've mentioned this before, I did underestimate the time it was going to take for Joel and James to develop a chemistry. I think, and again, this is another place I'd like to see that consistency, because when we have it humming, it's really humming. And I think you guys who watch every minute like I do have seen it. And then there'll be times you're just like, wait, why aren't we doing the thing that's working really well? Like what's happening? And so I think I'd like to get more consistency there. I did underestimate, I think there was, if you remember, James didn't even get 25 games because he was hurt when we acquired him. I think he only played 19 before the playoffs. I think the first few games, there was a lot of adrenaline and there wasn't a lot of system. So there really wasn't as much time. So I underestimated that. So I think this whole year, and especially this stretch coming up from now until really like the end of March, where we're playing tough teams, I think we're going to really hone what we're doing. And I hope it continues. I think the only teams that have played well against good teams this year are us, Denver, and there's another team that's like 500. But like, if you look at the teams that have played well against top teams, we're one of the few so far, and we'll really see if that's going to continue.
There's a really good article written by our friend Derek Bodner, just sort of assessing where the team was at the All-Star break and why.
I thought it was really good. I read that one.
And in what ways, I think that was even mentioned of what the Sixers record is against over 500 teams and stuff. And like why they are, you mentioned consistency a couple times, and to me and to Derek, it's consistency and effort. It's consistency and like losing those hustle plays, losing the rebounding battle, and that sort of just getting out muscled and out toughed and out efforted. They are 19-1 in games that the Sixers are 19-1 in games that they win the rebounding battle. But they are winning the rebounding battle in far fewer games than most other contender type teams. It feels like the Sixers are once again a flip the switch type team, but haven't earned the distinction of being a flip the switch type team. And so like effort wise, how do you like get, can we believe that? Like, it just seems, it's a frustrating viewing experience, as I'm sure you feel as well.
I don't think it's an unfair characterization, and that's one thing I was mentioning, that just to be more consistent. I will say when I mentioned we're built like the teams that have won titles, again, look, we haven't won the title, but if you compare us to past teams, generally they win games a little bit more on shooting than they do on the possession battle. Generally, they're a little bit better half court than they are in transition. For all the reasons that you guys have watched 1,000 playoff games, like the game, it's true, it does slow down. It doesn't slow down as much as people think, but it does slow down. It is a little bit more half court based. the rebounding battle generally tightens. So the teams that have a big edge tend to stop having a big edge. So look, we're building, and we have played well against better teams. Like, we have buckled down. That Cleveland game. I mean, I know it was just the first half, and the second half wasn't quite as good. I was talking to Elton Brand. It had been a while since we were like, hey, we're playing a good team and let's go beat them. And the first half was extremely encouraging. Like, okay, the thing we put together now with Jalen McDaniels, this thing can work against Cleveland, a very good team this year. I mean, better than I expected them to be. They have a better point differential. There's a lot of things that make people think Cleveland may even be better than us, and we'll see. But look, this is why I'm very excited for this upcoming stretch. We all year have played well against better teams, and we need to show that we can be a consistent team, possession to possession, and win in the playoffs. And I think we'll know more once we're through this stretch.
And we take a break from this pod with Daryl Morey, who for some reason is once again on the rights to Ricky Sanchez. Talk about our great sponsor, Briggs Auction. Mike, I have huge Briggs Auction news.
I see CJ smiling. So
yes,
what's going on?
I got a text from CJ the other day. He said, "What a rush! Just won my first Briggs Auction."
Wow!
Yeah.
Exhilarating.
Congratulations! Are you ready? Can you tell us?
Yeah, it was a lot of 4 men's coats. 2 that stuck out to me. They're all cool.
4 men's coats is what you won.
Yeah, it was a LL Bean coat from the 1970s.
Oh shit!
This pea coat from this German company that I haven't heard of before, but it looks like it's good material. And then there was like a trench coat in there and a sports coat. Very cool. The LL Bean coat, I would have spent easily $40-$50 if I saw it in a thrift store. Guess how much?
How much for the whole lot?
Oh, more guessing. Is it all one big for 4?
Yep.
$65.
15 beans.
Oh, wow. Shit. What a steal.
That's a huge steal for 4
What a
coats.
steal. See, I get wrapped up. So you download the Briggs Auction app, BRIGGS, or go to briggsauction.com. I'm dangerous around auctions because I get wrapped up. I feel like I got to win. Like the competitor comes out in me. So I've overpaid for a couple of Briggs Auction lots just to win them. But I'm very happy I have them. Congratulations, CJ.
CJ's a big winner.
Big winner. Briggs Auction, Delco, family owned and operated, 4-generation auction house there in Garnet Valley, Delaware County. They have the auctions basically every single week. So what I do is I check in once a week, on like Tuesdays, see what the auction of the week is. These estate auctions, there's furniture, there's coats for CJ, there's art, there's collectibles, there's musical instruments. There's I think a 67 Mustang up there right now. Just
for $15.
$15. And the Mustang comes with a pea coat from LL Bean. Yeah.
Adorable.
BriggsAuction.com. That is BriggsAuction.com. Cool shit for you and your friends. BriggsAuction.com. You can pick up by appointment during the week. Saturday's open pickup. They can work out shipping for you as well. Also, if you go to BriggsAuction.com/Ricky, you can sign up for this week's giveaway. They're doing a giveaway again. Has an Art of the Take shirt and a Tyrese Maxey rookie card. And by the way, if you have an estate that, you want to auction, I guess, or you're downsizing, send an email to info@briggsauction.com. Congratulations, CJ. BriggsAuction.com. Back to the pod.
In that article that Derek mentioned, this team hasn't lost games in which they've been up by 15, 20 points, but they've come very close. A lot of times, including the Cleveland game, including the Lakers game, which was one of the worst collapses of all time. Like a number of very near misses, which would have been,
Daryl,
it is reflective of previous years blown situations, some before your time, obviously.
You don't know how hard it is to do podcasts after those games. It's the weirdest feeling to come on all fucking pissed off after they won.
I hate to quote the great Sam Hinkie, and maybe this will help you guys, but Sam Hinkie always would say, and I think
why watch the game front to back?
Yeah,
but I'll make it a little bit simpler, not back to front, but just reverse the halves. And in this version, we're down 14, and we outscore them by 20 in the second half, and it's a big comeback. And your pod's wonderfully like, oh, that was started terrible, but now we've done this. So it is, especially given the 3-point disparities and how much it varies, it is a little bit crazy. People focus a little bit too much. I'm not saying they shouldn't focus on it. There's some real things to learn from that, but we probably focus a little bit too much on it.
Because there is some, it is, sorry, Spike. It is like
a big lead is a hard thing too.
blowing a big lead leaves a specifically bad taste in your mouth that is reflective of the kind of team that this team thinks they are, which is a flip the switch team, despite the fact that they haven't proven any like with enough certainty that they can do that in the playoffs. That is why, well, as soon as it starts to happen, you go like, here they fucking go again, man. And I know you fucking think the same thing, Daryl.
I'm just saying it's a. Like you're
I'm pointing at you.
It's a debate. Look, I mean, it's more important that you have the ability to trounce teams.
Yep.
Like if you choose two teams, one that apparently drives you crazy, that's very talented and gets big leads, and then fritters them away, and one that just has to be Johnny Tryhard and win by 6 through tons of effort. You definitely, and I actually was talking to one of the teams that are, tanking this year, frankly, about this and the frustration of that we all feel at times, right? That I think is fair. And he was like, you realize that's really good, right? And I'm like, I guess like it means when you get to the playoffs, you're going to have an extra gear, and all the teams that win the title have an extra gear. So I agree. We don't deserve to be even thought of as title contenders yet. I mean, championship level yet, because we haven't proven it.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that when we have our main guys, we generally are beating the heck out of people is a good thing.
You mentioned Jalen McDaniels. And, a player that you traded for Jalen McDaniels, the people who were, I guess, publicly backing him would always talk about this lineup data where when he was on the court, the Sixers were up by yada, yada, yada. And it made me...
Or some of the people just thought we traded for the other one. They were also for it.
Right, right.
Those are the two classes of people for the trade that I noticed. It made me think of you have the Sloan Conference in a couple of weeks, which is your big nerd guy conference at MIT. Do you think as much, in the last 10 years or something, the proliferation of people using data has gone up like a lot? Like, is it at the point where people overuse it because they don't understand it? Or has there become a point that it is so widely used that something else is now undervalued? Or I see people quoting numbers that don't match my eyes, and I'm wondering why you think that is and how you think data has what its place is currently. I think your instincts are very good in that, and I mentioned this at the, what'd you call it, the nerd guy conference?
I'm just kidding.
No, it's okay. There aren't many gals, although we're trying to fix that. And we're doing better every year. I think 30% of the panelists are women.
Good job. Nerd folks, nerd people.
Nerd folks, exactly. Yeah. And what I said is I was excited for some of the first wave, although we're getting a little bit past it, where teams would be using the data wrong. And so if I was worried teams were going to use it wrong, and I could point to the examples actually where teams are using lineup data wrong, things like that. For sure, the public domain data isn't as good, and fans are going to, glom onto some of the wrong statistics. We've talked about this before. Rebounding is generally overvalued. That's a dangerous thing for me to say, given our team struggles in that area, but it's absolutely the case that we know that specifically defensive rebounding we know is overvalued. When you try to map it to the player at a team level, it's very important. So
yeah,
well, Mike's concerns are valid.
Mm-hmm.
At the player level, it becomes overvalued generally. You get so that's one, and then a lot of those statistics that people look at tend to favor players who get tons of defensive rebounds. Players who aren't forced to create their own shot, those players tend to get overvalued as well. there's a whole set of ways we know those things are flawed, and people will use them. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
Yeah, I think it does. It's like you made a good point about people being excited that people are using it wrong, because using data wrong or bad data can be worse than having no data at all.
It absolutely can be. And another easy one is start state. So again, you watch basketball. If you're the guy who's cherry picking and gets a dunk, that's not going to be as valuable as the guy who creates a difficult shot, gets to the rim and one. So yeah, or on the flip side, you're the guy who gets the pass with 3 seconds on the shot clock, and you're the poor bastard who's either turning it over or throwing up, something really low quality. You're the one who gets dinged for that. So there are just a lot of ways we know these stats that are public domain are incorrect.
Spike brought up Jalen McDaniels. You traded for Jalen McDaniels, you traded Matisse for him, and a pretty valuable pick, the 30, let's say 32nd, 33rd overall pick, which is valuable.
And I can tell you're very mad. I think
I'm upset at that.
You asked me to keep that pick.
I did ask you to keep it.
Backup center. Did we go
anybody? Really? It's my favorite. Look, it's my favorite part of the draft. Early second round is my favorite part of the draft.
Oh, we've had great success there. For sure.
I know you have. You said speaking about Jalen, you said that he has a lot of untapped potential and potentially starter potential. Can you speak on what specifically you see in that? He's looked good so far, obviously, and his contract is expiring, so you have to anticipate that you'll be re-signing him this offseason. Is that right?
Yeah, we have his bird right. So yeah, look, I similar to how some of these stats you were talking about, Spike, can overvalue certain things. They tend to undervalue players on bad teams. They can overvalue them too, especially if they're scorers generally. Mm-hmm. But they can also undervalue them, especially if they're looking at like their impact on the floor versus off and things like that. Often players like Jalen get shoved into a larger role than they're going to get here. When I mentioned starter potential, I look at starter potential as someone who is generally either a two-way player or like in the top 10 percentile of the league on one end or the other. You almost have to be that, or you're not a good enough to be on a championship team starter. And so I see Jalen as a guy who could be an above average both way player. Re-signing him, will be potentially a challenge, but a lot of the teams that will want him, may not have their exceptions or cap room or things like that should potentially help us. Defensively, we really liked what we saw, mostly on video, and then offensively, we thought the opportunities he would get here, more simplified, he'd excel at. So those were some of the arguments, for acquiring him, obviously.
Speaking of arguments, we've had several arguments on this podcast about PJ Tucker. And I'm wondering how you feel like his performance this year profiles against what you've expected, and how much you think maybe some of the public blowback to him is the reality of seeing his game every day rather than just obliterating us in a playoff round specifically.
I think there's a lot to that, I would say, and I'm comfortable saying the things I've told PJ directly. I think the biggest thing is we want him to stay aggressive on offense, especially when he's open from the perimeter. I had actually never seen him take a dial. He dialed that back early. He's been better for, a good while. But that was early. So if we're talking about things that were a little bit behind what at least I personally hoped for, defensively, he's in range of what we thought, especially against some of the key players he's had to go against this year. I think too, like one thing that hurts him in the eyes of fans is he is almost always taking the hardest matchup when he's out there. These are players who score no matter who's guarding them. And so it's really it's sort of a subtle thing. Like when Shane Battier used to guard Kobe, he was taking him from, 1.1 efficient on his shots to 1.02, right? And that was super valuable, but also, not very obvious from the eye test. So I feel like he's made it difficult on those scorers. He brings a lot. I know Doc leans on him a lot for communicating and sort of captaining the defense. That's been a big positive. So, look, he's a great player to have. We did have quite a few teams who are contenders who wanted them on their team during this trade deadline, and we said no to all that. So, if that's an indication of where he's at, he's still very valuable to a contender. So, sure feels like we should keep him given where we're at.
And we take a break from our pod with Daryl to talk about our very special sponsor, MortgageCS. Mike, MortgageCS, like everybody else, is a sponsor of the of Live Ricky 5, but they have a special sponsorship that we're not going to reveal for another couple of weeks. But let it be known, it is a very, very special sponsorship. MortgageCS has been
one of the chairs will be in a little house, and you can get that little house, just a little tiny 2-chair house.
MortgageCS has been with us for about a year, and they have instantly become ingrained because they are what they say they are. So MortgageCS is a mortgage broker, which means they don't lend you the money if you need a mortgage. They go to the banks and find you the best rate, but they're an independent mortgage broker. So they don't have secret deals with any banks. So basically, the great thing about MortgageCS, first of all, they are nimble, they're responsive, they are local. When I say responsive, anytime you call or text the CEO, Ben, at any time, right now, do it right now, 267-391-7425. But the best thing about them being independent is some of these bigger mortgage brokers have these deals with banks. So they might not be, pushing you in the best direction for you, might be the best direction for them. Every one of our listeners who has gone to MortgageCS, every single one has come back and said, not only do I like them, not only do I feel more educated about it, but I'm with someone that I'm comfortable with. And when you're borrowing all that money, you want a mortgage broker that you are comfortable with. Also, if you're buying a home and you're already working with a mortgage broker, it doesn't hurt for you to get a quote from somebody else. Again, call or text their CEO, Ben, at any time, 267-391-7425. That's 267-391-7425. Or go to the awesome Ricky microsite they have built us at mortgagecs.com/Ricky to become a MortgageCS Ricky VIP. Look at all the 5-star reviews on Google, over 200 of them. Once again, mortgagecs.com/Ricky. This advertisement, not a commitment to lend or extend credit. MortgageCS is an equal housing opportunity mortgage broker. All loans are subject to credit approval. Certain restrictions may apply. Company NMLS 1464766. Visit mortgagecs.com/Ricky for more information.
And I agree with all that. Absolutely. And if he is as valuable to a contender, that means we're thinking about the 16-game season rather than the 82. Which leads to my question, why is he playing with a dead hand? If his hand is dead, he can't feel it sometimes. What role do you have, or the front office has, in just sort of leaning on PJ and be like, hey, bud, take a week off. Give 2 weeks off. Go on vacation. Go see some friends. You deserve it. We love you. See you in March. Why is that? Why is that not happen? I just feel like in an age of load management and making sure everybody's healthy for the playoffs, it feels a little insane that he has continued playing at his age through a dead hand.
So 2 things. One is I feel like for when you guys invite me to be on again, we should just make it like the burn zone, like, with like the topics next to Mike, and he can just go one done after the other.
I'm only doing it to you because I like it.
No, it's okay. No. It's I asked for this at the beginning, so it's perfect.
That's true.
Second, I would say PJ would not be out there if our medical staff wasn't comfortable him being out there. So that's 2. I know that's a little bit of a dodge of your question. 3, I will say PJ Tucker himself wants to play more. So I preached to him, hey, look at the big picture. You're here to do what you did with Milwaukee and take us from a team that maybe doesn't know how to win the championship to one that does, and to bring, great defense on a guy like Giannis, who we know he plays well. And so that's another force, pushing the other direction, right or wrong. But long story short, I mean, I know that from our medical staff, they would not let him out there if they didn't think he was in a good place to be out there.
Can the medical staff sign on for a sec? I just got to ask him a couple questions.
Sure, I will,
CJ, send him the link.
I will connect you with Simon, who has the most important quality of any head of medical staff is he's Australian. So that is his key credentials. Mike did not like that answer.
I didn't love it. Does it bother? Last thing, does it bother you that PJ only shoots from the corners like that? Would you like him to start shooting from like?
I want him to
straight away.
I want him to shoot whenever he has a great shot, and that includes from not just the corner.
I agree with that. It feels like we're on the.
He knows that.
It feels like we're locked in. That he should take a couple days off here and there. He'll play plenty in other games, and then he should shoot when he's open more often. We've established that. Lock that in, CJ.
Very good. Lock it in. Put it on loop. Whatever they say on those fancy shows now. So
you mentioned the Embiid and Harden sort of on court relationship and how that you didn't. It took longer than you had accounted for or whatever. So the first, I don't know, I don't know how many games off the top of my head, but the first like 20 games of this season, while the numbers said the Embiid Harden pick and roll was great, if you were watching the games, it didn't seem like it happened very often. And it didn't, even though the numbers said it didn't feel like it happened very often or it looked that cohesive. And then all of a sudden something like snapped and happened. And it just looked, they were doing it every play. Is there something that you know of that caused that to happen? And
a lot of it's the opponent, because I've heard you guys talk about, because you do go on after games sometimes, where you're very frustrated that there wasn't enough of this or enough pick and roll, and it just great. And a lot of it's just the teams that are very good at switching. If you switch it, you're not going to get much out of the pick and roll. You get a mismatch. So then you got to find the mismatch, which we've been pretty good at as well. But it's just not going to feel smooth unless the other team's guarding the pick and roll in a closer to traditional manner. Obviously, there's a whole bunch of ways to guard it, but if they're switching with viable switchers, like you're not going to get a clean look out of it. One of the two is going to have to either attack the mismatch. It's generally been Joel, although James lately has been looking great. On some of that. So I find a lot of it's very opponent based. And so again, this stretch coming up where we play tougher opponents will be really, really helpful because it's going to help us see what teams are going to throw at us.
D'Anthony Melton, big offseason trade acquisition. I've always been a huge D'Anthony Melton fan. And I would say his offense and specifically his shooting has been better than expected, except maybe finishing around the rim has been a little bit of an issue here and there. But his defense, especially his on-ball defense, has been a little less consistent than I would have guessed, having watched him a lot, but not obviously every single minute of his season. How's the Melton experience been for you, and what do you expect like as the season tightens up?
For me, he's been better than we expected. I think a lot of the on-ball defense that people, and even analysts, and even when we're watching,
you can just call it, take it
or
to
even
me.
It's fine. Get frustrated, like, oh boy, he got beat pretty clean there. Why did that happen? And I've found that pretty much all these perimeter defenders get beat more than you expect until you watch them every day. I mean, these guards in this league, and we have one of them, Maxey, now. Like, it's basically impossible to stay in front. A lot of it's like staying in the play, not stopping them or making their first step go at a more shallow angle away from the hoop than towards it. So yeah, I feel like anytime you get a player you're calling a good perimeter defender, this has been my experience my whole career, you end up more frustrated with them than you really should. So a lot of times I value like guys who stand in the play, and obviously he's elite at that.
Yeah.
And then he's also elite at all the other, as you know, like just passing lanes without over gambling. Just his rebounding,
Yeah.
you know,
He's the best rebounder.
Some of
on the
it's
team.
like, well, some of it's like, I think you guys have called this out pretty well. Like sometimes players we get stand out, like Jalen stands out in a big way because we sort of needed that
exactly
skill set. And I think Melton stands out in a big way because you're like, oh, that's what it looks like when someone really goes to get a rebound. That's a really nice thing. So, you know, he's sort of like, he's fit exactly what we were hoping for. You know, I would say better than even we thought going in. I mean, it is hard generally to, you know, to trade, you know, a late first for a guy who's going to have 2 years and contribute as much as he has.
Yeah, for sure. Do you think that because I agree with you, the every great defender on the perimeter gets beat because of how you're really just not allowed to touch players anymore. They'll call a foul.
Right.
Do you feel like that is bad? I mean, I know it's different for you being the president of a team that has James Harden and Joel Embiid, who are two of the best foul drawers in the league. But
the fouls are great. It's totally fair.
I know we love the fouls. Fouls are awesome on one half of the side.
Your defense, don't forget that. It's like a big advantage of getting fouled as well. So
okay, but also, do you feel like the way that the NBA is? I know I'm not trying to get you in trouble or anything, but the way the NBA is reffed or the way the rules are written, like it is. There are too many fouls being called on like ball handlers, like trying to get somewhere, and defenders essentially have to let them go by.
Yeah, I would say most of the time I'm just like the fish in the fishbowl, where I'm just like trying to optimize with what's handed me because that's the more productive thing. I would say when I take a step back,
fish love optimizing is the metaphor that I know.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Maybe the moray eel optimizes. Who knows? But I would say when I take a step back, the only thing I can say for sure is probably wrong, although I don't have a great solution, is the way contact is adjudicated when you're more than like 6 feet away from the hoop versus when you're 6 feet in. That seems like that has to be closer. Otherwise you get these weird kinks of, exploiting, loopholes in the rules and things like that. So I would say that's probably the main thing. I know the league has talked about it. I don't believe we've come up with any solutions to that. Nobody wants a million fouls called on the interior. Like that's part of the game, like the physicality, the athleticism in the interior. So my conclusion is that, they should probably allow a little more on the perimeter. So
I would love more no calls. I love a no call.
They are actually getting to that where they are getting, I mean, you'll see it more now where players will awkwardly be landing with no calls. That's definitely happening more. Now I'd have to ask the league for the data to say how much, but it's happening more. And I know that's being preached more by Monty McCutcheon, who's the head of the referees. So I think we're going in the right direction on that.
So there are
Spike's hair is.
Sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay.
I don't want to distract you with my hair.
I don't know if that was indicative of how we're doing here.
No. Speaking of which, there's a debate going on the podcast. How often do you wash your hair? Shampoo. And that is not about your hair. It started with all of us. So I'm not picking on you. I'm just curious. Are you an everyday guy?
I am not.
Good. Good.
But I know it's crazy because I research everything. I've of what science there is there. I think it's mostly concluded that a lot of the prevailing wisdom is wrong. Like, homeless people always have great hair and all this kind of stuff. Like that's mostly wrong. That like
no, they do.
So I just honestly do it when I'm like, oh wait, I haven't done my hair in a while, and it's been like, I think it should be pretty obvious for my appearance. I don't spend a lot of time on it, so
okay.
let's just say that. So I wash it when it feels like I haven't done it in a while. So
I love that, but So go back to the foul drawing actually.
Yeah.
So there are 7, not specifically, but sort of in a general sense, there are 7 players this year averaging 30 points or more. And I went through trying to find, I can't find a season when there's more than 3. Sometimes there's 2, sometimes there's 1, sometimes there's none. The top team in the league is scoring 119 points a game, which is incredibly high. How much of that is the way that the rules are? How much of that is threes and offensive skill? But also how much of that, and maybe this is me being an old man, but like when I'm watching in the regular season, I do not see this sort of competing on defense that I feel like I used to. So how much of each of those things is causing this, what seems to be a sudden rise in individual and team scoring?
I think the last one is like 0. I don't agree with that one at all.
Interesting.
Your theory. Sorry to kill it, but
Sorry.
I would say it's pretty well known why scoring's up. So pace is up, threes are up, and offensive rebounding is also ticking up. So all of those go up. The only thing actually, if you look at the start of the year, is very interesting. Like offense actually wasn't up because they were calling a travel every like third possession, which was completely maddening to me. So now that the easy turnovers are gone, like that's a big reason why offense has jumped as well. I also think there's more spread floors. So, and there's more teams playing with better spacing. And so add all those up and you have the highest, and then the other reason why individuals, so that's at the team level, but then if you go to individuals, there's more switching. More switching leads to more ISOs. More ISOs leads to more, usually it's going to be your better offensive player who's attacking the hoop. So,
but then I guess my question is, and I suppose you could ask the same thing with the NFL, which scoring is up as well. But I guess my question would be, if there are these defensive things that are causing the scoring to go up, why hasn't defense adjusted in a way that would bring it back down?
Yeah, it's a great question. And defenses, I do feel like, is behind offense right now. And especially, like, I'll give one example. Early on, when it was pretty obvious that shot selection was way out of whack in the NBA, this is early in my career, and it's been slowly fixing itself. The teams actually figured out offensively that they needed to fix their shot selection well before those same approaches and coaches should also have been trying to push people into less efficient shots. And they both didn't prioritize it, and they also were slow to do it. And I think we're going through that again. Like, switching is one of the very few ways to guard a lot of what's happening in the NBA with, double drags and spacing and like really. And so like teams are just behind on their defenses being able to switch. It's one thing that makes us unique. Like Joel, having him switch doesn't make any sense because he's so impactful at the rim. So we're still like very traditional in a lot of our defense, but teams without a Joel, which is pretty much all of them, except a few that have a good rim protector, switching has become like way more important and one of the very few ways to slow these offenses down.
That leads nicely into my one of my biggest bones to pick.
Oh,
I'm ready.
Team, which is sort of, I've talked about it on the podcast a million times, but like no man's land double teams, where let's say the caricature of Daryl Morey is like, you want your offense to shoot open threes and get to the rim and get fouled, and not take as many, contested mid-range, let's say. But the defense of this team, frustratingly so, leads to a lot of open threes off of drives. The easiest example this season is in the early, I forget, it might have been like the second game of the season. Grayson Allen drives. Tobias helps off of Wes Matthews. Grayson Allen
at the end of the game. Yeah,
at the end of the game, Embiid is protecting the rim. If Grayson Allen takes that shot, it's a 16-foot contested whatever.
That was game two.
Game 2, yeah. Tobias helps out, kick to Grayson Allen, hits the shot. game
Doing
over.
this up since game 2. I'm ready. Okay.
Well, but it's that's the most like obvious one. And we had Tobias on, and Tobias was great, and I almost brought that up to him, but he was too nice, and I didn't want to say. I don't want to bring up that bad memory. But it's
Right.
Tobias's answer was, well, sometimes about the doubling was sometimes we want to put the ball in the hands of the 4th or 5th option, and that's why we double, let's say Kawhi or Dame or whoever. But when that 4th or 5th option is there to shoot, like a Wes Matthews, like hitting a catch and shoot 3 offensively is what you want offense to be. And it feels like this team sends needless doubles where they're not quick enough to, Matisse was a guy that could actually contest back after doubling, but nobody else is Matisse. It's hard to both contest a drive and then also come back to your guy and contest a shot. Does that frustrate you? Is that what do you want to see better on the defensive end? And I know you're not going to throw Doc under the bus, but just
I would. There's no need to throw Doc under the bus on this one. I can answer it.
Dan Burke under the bus.
because
Whoever's
Dan Burke's
deciding to double needlessly at the elbow, so where George Niang's not going to come back over to contest a shot that friggin' Josh Giddey's going to hit. Whatever. It's
Can I throw Mike under the bus?
You can throw me under the bus, right under the bus. That's fine.
Yeah.
This team throws me under the bus a lot, Daryl. Let me tell you that.
All right.
This is the season where Mike's innocence was lost. Daryl, you just got here at the end.
It's year 10 of this.
Yeah, he was always the optimistic one, and I find myself every podcast going like, "Not they won, Mike. It's okay, they won. This is what he's become."
All right. Yes, you guys have become like the Muppet guys, and
Yeah.
But anyway, was it Wallace and somebody? Anyway, long story short. Okay. So a couple things. One is, and I know Doc has been on this and worked with this. We have had players sort of freelance a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I have been to the multiple practices where Doc makes the correct point, like, hey, we want you to use your instincts on D because those are important. But at the same time, if you go do something and your teammates don't know you're doing it, that will hurt the team. So I know Doc has done a good job and I think a lot of like some of these over doubling has been better. I'd have to look at that, but it has been better. Second, we do schematic doubles. Often it's later in the clock where it's a little bit harder for them to make a pass out of it. Often it's to utilize our personnel. We do have personnel who are good at people over, maybe not as good at keeping people always in front of them. So turnover is actually the most impactful play in basketball. So if you can get a steal to something open, that's more impactful than an open corner 3 because you're taking their possession to 0 and you're getting an efficient play the other way. So sometimes it actually makes sense to gamble for some of these plays as well. Finally, and I'm not saying this in a way that you're wrong completely. I'm just saying that there are specific instances where some of this, and you also do want to have some element of randomness to your defense, which is, that they can't anticipate. I remember when we were playing elite Chris Paul when he was in New Orleans, we finally figured out you just have to completely change up what you're doing almost or otherwise he will eat it alive. So look, long story short, yeah, you don't want to give a bunch of corner 3s, but because of how we're playing, we're going to give up a few. And that's probably okay. I think the proof is in overall, how good is your defense? I haven't looked lately, but I know we're in the top 10. I think we're 4 or 3 or something like that. I'd have to look. So
to me, it's all connected. What we've just been talking about, and from Spike's question on, of if they called less fouls, then they could play more point of attack defense. And if they could play more point of attack defense without fouling, then you don't have to send as many doubles. And if you don't have to send as many doubles, then there's fewer open 3s, which would make offenses come back down to earth a little bit more. Tell someone.
Yeah, defense is defensive way is way more complicated than offense.
Yeah, for sure,
as you know. And there's really not a hey, do X and X works, right? It's really you need to be coherent as a team, work as a unit, and you can win. You can be a good defense in quite a few different ways. One, to your point, is limiting all their efficient shots. Turnovers is one. Defensive rebounding at a high rate is one. Limiting any rim attempts, which we're very good at, mostly because of Joel, is one. So there are a whole bunch of ways you can do it, and we're our goal is to be top 10 in both. We'd love to be like one in one of them. I don't think we're one in either, but we're balanced and we're set up pretty well. So
about 6 weeks ago, after Maxey moved to the bench, Doc said that he would have 3 starting lineups. Are you excited to find out what those other 2 are when he eventually reveals them?
Well, I know what they are. He actually has, yeah. So I know what they are. Look, I'm being I'm 100% sincere. I trust Doc to choose the starting lineup, and he's done a good job of it this year.
Yep.
He actually thought through like the kinds of teams, and I'm not sure we've faced them. The other thing that could have happened is that we've played extremely well with the one we've been going with, so he just stuck with it. So. Look, I know that when he went into it, he had 3.
It's okay. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just telling you.
I had it written down, and I was like,
"This is a great question."
Okay,
it's a great question. What do you think
I said I want all the hard questions.
Yeah. What do you think about Maxey off the bench? How do you feel like that has gone, and how do you feel about is that something for years to come? You think about him being there, or is that just a this season thing?
I mean, he's a starter quality player. I think. Look, we have Joel, James, and Tobias, all very offensive focused players and bring a lot of their value offense. Maxey brings most of his value on offense still. So I thought it made sense when Doc decided to do it to sort of balance that out and also allow Maxey some opportunities to grow. A lot of people, when they're frustrated by it's like 5 non-starters on the floor at the time. A lot of that's like we want to play a wider rotation of the regular season, but some of it is just Maxey is one of the key future players of this franchise, so let's give him pretty wide berth to develop.
I wanted, Mac McClung won the slam dunk competition. It was amazing. We got a voicemail that mentioned you and Mac, and I wanted to play it. We have a voicemail line, and I wanted you to hear it and react to it.
Is this a rational voicemail?
Caller, longtime listener. A few things. I love Mac, and I love this day for him. Congratulations for him. Can I say one thing? Daryl going to Twitter and grandstanding and pretending like he's the omniscient. I knew exactly what was going to happen. This was the plan. You know what, Daryl? Go fuck yourself, okay? Don't fuck with us. Don't be doing that. No. We see it. We see it, Daryl. Having said that, congrats to Matt. Love the pod.
Congrats to Matt. I think going to fuck myself is a little extreme.
It's with love. They love you.
I do tend to like Twitter, so people seem to. I was just supporting our guy. Look, Mac is
a new guy, very fresh guy, very recent.
Well, no, he's not. So that's where I think him and his weird high pitched voice was wrong.
I like the high pitch.
Take a shot back. There you go.
Whatever that voice was, it sounded like he was talking to his child or something. But anyway, he's been with the Blue Coats since game 1. He's been with us the whole season. Obviously, everyone knows he can dunk. So it's pretty cool that he got a chance. He's played better throughout the season. Now, I can settle your 50%, 30% argument.
It's 50.
That you guys were having.
Yeah, that was bizarre.
It's not really. Well, it's sort of both. You're both right, as usual. I'm not splitting the baby either. So the G League starting last year adopted this very weird, although I think it's cool, where they split their season in 2. The first part of the season is thought of as distinct of the second half of the season.
Right.
And over the entire number of games he's played with the Blue Coats, he's shot 38%, which is quite good. But he shot very poorly in this first half, and he shot very well, 50% to your point, Spike, in the second half. But that's only in the 18 games that they call now the G League season, and they call the first 20 games or the showcase. Yeah, there you go. See, Mike paying attention as always. So, look, he's a fine shooter. He can attack the hoop. He can really dunk. He's been a very good player for us. And to my point, he's been improving. So we've thought about him through the year as someone we'd signed to a 2-way. It's not an accident we signed him before the contest. We had thought about him as someone we'd sign, and when it looked like he was going to be in the contest, we're like, okay, well, let's just make official the thing we were thinking about. So.
The last thing I have, and I know Mike has one more thing. You have Sloan in a couple of weeks, so good luck with Sloan. Can people watch that online? By the way, is that an online? Can you buy it online?
Yeah. Yeah, you can just go onto the website and stream the main panel room.
We have an event on April 9th. We've done live podcasts. Your general manager Elton Brand has appeared at one on stage. He was treated like a hero. It's April 9th in Philadelphia, the evening. B-Ball Paul's going to be there. And I would just like to extend, if you feel like stopping by to say hello to the natives, you never know how well that could. So I just wanted to make sure that
Is this at the location where Sam's in the rafters, or is this a different?
No, but we will get that. We have the banner. So the banner will be there. So you can take a picture with the banner. Yes.
Okay.
We take it. We bring it with us.
So. I mean, that is a great invite. I will definitely come if I can. So
yeah.
I appreciate it. No, I'm serious.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I'll give you the info.
You'll get there. I'll save. I have a Jaden Springer question, but I'll save it for the off season. Our own Sixers Adam had a nice interview with Jaden Springer on the site.
I did catch
rotation. Hoping he's a rotation player next year. There's a lot of guys expiring, so we're gonna need that.
I think he has a real shot because look, we're going into the offseason wanting to re-sign a whole set of players, but the history of the league is we're not going to be able to re-sign all of them. So his perimeter defense, Doc is very excited about. So
so am I. Me and Doc, 2 Ps. You can't gamble as a person associated with the NBA. You can't gamble on the NBA.
Definitely, I'm not gambling. Anyone who's listening,
definitely not gambling. No one's doing that. But if you could gamble on the NBA, how much
to me?
Yeah, here we go. How much would you bet on the Sixers making it past the second round of the playoffs this year? And if they don't, could you give me that money?
Because you're not allowed to gamble.
You can't gamble.
I actually really can't answer that. I'm not even kidding. I literally just took the gambling training from the.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
I guess generally give me money, and also.
Well, at least you're not trying to take Tobias's money anymore.
No, Tobias earned his money this season. Although he's fallen back into a couple bad traits of some of his old tricks that we don't love so much, but we still love Tobias. We appreciate Tobias.
As you should.
We've basically accepted the fact that this team, despite the fact that they don't deserve it, is a flip the switch team. They are going to decide when the switch is flipped, even if they haven't earned a switch in the first place. Where are you? Like, we have 25 games to figure out how optimistic we should be and all that stuff, but what are you compared to this?
I think this is the best team since I've been here. Yeah. Okay. I think I feel very comfortable with that. Yeah. So now we also maybe have a tougher second round opponent than we're ever going to face, possibly.
Well, that didn't matter before, honestly.
First round, yeah. No, I agree. We definitely tripped over our own feet against Atlanta, in particular. Miami, I feel like we should have won too, but
Joel missed the first 2 games. Yeah.
We always have our reasons, but I think at the end of the day, we
loaded with reasons. 10 years of reasons, Daryl.
We need to put those in the closet and shut the door. So, yes.
Well, good luck. We appreciate you always coming back to answer the tough questions, specifically the ones about hair washing and so on and so forth. We wish you luck. I don't want to be you if we don't get past the second round and having to come back on this podcast, to be quite honest with you. It's going to be tough. You're going to owe Mike a bunch of money, yada, yada, yada.
Apparently, I didn't realize that before tonight.
Yeah,
look,
that's part of this.
Yeah. So we're it's an exciting time. A lot of good games for you guys to break down. So appreciate you guys having me on.
And
Sweet.
We'll see you on April 9th to be excited about the playoffs before the offseason pod, which will be less exciting about the playoffs that have happened.
Yeah. About 3.5
Or it could be
weeks.
very exciting.
Or it could be very exciting, which would be great.
We'll do it on parade.
We'll see you at the parade. A pod at the parade. That sounds good.
That would be amazing. So, okay.
Thank you, Daryl.
Thanks, Daryl. He answered every question. I mean, pretty much.
Not that gambling one.
No, but he's not allowed. He took the training.
How much do you think that Daryl would have bet on the Sixers getting out of the second round this year?
I think maybe he throws it with a couple of other bets and a $5 parlay.
Oh, wow. That's not that confident at all. That's not that confident at all.
Well,
I really hope they do it. Just for the sake of,
it'd be nice.
Something different.
Yeah.
Something, spice it up a little bit. It feels like we're in rerun territory, but once again, they are a very good team. They win games. They don't win them in the way that we would like to win them. I really do recommend people read that Derek Bodner article on his newsletter. It's great.
It was basically like they're good and everything says that they're good, but why are they so maddening?
It doesn't feel like they're good.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it is just because like they haven't done it in the playoffs. Like we're just not going to trust it until we see it in the playoffs. I think if they have a good stretch in the last month and a half here, that there could be some goodwill earned of like, okay, they did beat Boston, they did beat, Milwaukee, whatever it is. But it's going to be hard. This is a gauntlet, and they've been as injury prone or as much trouble as they've had with injuries with specifically Harden, Maxey, and Embiid earlier on in the season. Everybody else has been really healthy. It's been a very healthy season, and so that'll be tested over the stretch here, and hopefully they can go into the playoffs with the full rotation. But
yeah, I mean, your point about it being a gauntlet, the Eastern Conference, like Miami has not, I wouldn't say put it together, but they are stabilized.
Yep.
Boston is good, Milwaukee is good, Cleveland is good, and then there's just like. Not that I think they'll lose to the Knicks, but like they're a competent team that would make them work. Who knows? Atlanta just fired Nate McMillan today.
Yeah, I think with Brooklyn's still going to be a tough series. I don't think they're going to win a series, but they'll still be difficult because they're a ton of long active defenders with a bunch of shooters in there also. But I think the East is a little bit lighter than it was previously. It's they got to be healthy. They got to win the first round convincingly, whoever they get, and then it's going to take them finally advancing to the conference finals for the first time since I was 11. For anybody to feel anything this year, otherwise it's just more of the same. And we didn't ask Daryl about like Harden leaving and stuff, but
what's he gonna say?
What's he gonna say? Yeah.
All right. Well, you're not here this weekend, right? It's just me.
No.
Just me. And then the home stretch, and then a disappointing playoff run, and then Daryl a couple weeks later.
So we got the whole next few months.
Yep.
lined up right in front of us.
We'll see you at Live Ricky 5 and Live Ricky 6, where we all
if you don't fuck with
we all denounce our fandom and never watch basketball again.
That's right.
the final Live Ricky.
If you don't fuck with me,
We will talk to you next time. Are you down with TGP?
Yeah, like face.
If you don't fuck with me, then I won't fuck with you.
if you don't fuck with me,
Then I won't fuck with you.
but if you fuck with me,
That's a plan B.